Again, we see this process with Saul, who was sent to fight the battle against the king of Agag and to kill him. And he didn't do it. He brought him back. It doesn't even say why, and it doesn't really matter why. He didn't obey. God gave him a supernatural victory, but he didn't do his part, which was to kill Agag. We see something similar in the creation of the world, and when God put men on earth, he supernaturally gave us that advantage of being created and to give us every good thing and a great world to live in. And he said, go forth and subdue it. But we see not only the fall of man and the original sin and all of that, we see at the Tower of Babel, they're trying to congregate. They're not doing what the Father had told them to do. And there's a lot more to that story. I'm oversimplifying it. But the point is, we see God over and over take us through this two-step process. The part that's his part, he's always faithful to do. And then there's the part that's our part, and are we doing our part? And so, today, it made the story of David and Goliath made a lot more sense because I suddenly realized that was David's part, and I did hear a discourse someone did that was very fascinating. I'd like to do a video on that at some point. I'll give you the gist of it, and that is, it wasn't, the story of David and Goliath wasn't the way that we a lot of times assume it was. And that God had actually given David unique advantages, and Goliath actually had disadvantages that we don't take into account. And so, when the Father sends us forth to do things, we're not necessarily looking for a miracle when we step out in faith. God may have already just set it up to our advantage, and we just don't step out in faith. We live in fear because we don't realize what the Father has already put into place. And it becomes really obvious afterwards. And then our faith gets shaken a second time because we say, well, I guess it wasn't really God. I mean, it worked out. I mean, it was going to work out. I just didn't see it at first. Well, no, that's still God. That's still God. And so, that's it in a nutshell. That, yes, David, surely by himself, maybe he could have hit David with a rock in the forehead and so forth, but and knocked him down. But we know that up through that point, it was all God, really. God gave him the courage. God set him up in life to respond that way because he had a heart after him. David had a heart after God. And, I don't know about it sinking in. A rock sunk into his forehead. But the point is, at that point, when he had him on the ground, he won. You see, the battle was already won. The battle was already won. God won that battle for the Israelites through David. But the job wasn't done. And how often do we shrink back from finishing whatever he gives us to do because we aren't going to do our part? And do we realize that it's more than just us missing out? It makes God angry when we don't do our part. And you can see that same trend all throughout Scripture. And I'm not saying that we should do things to avoid making God angry. I'm saying that he's very passionate about these things. He's not sitting up in heaven going, well, yes, I knew you were going to fail, so... No, come on, folks. Come on. when God knocks that giant down, if he tells you to cut that head off, cut it off. If he tells you to be fruitful and multiply, be fruitful and multiply. If, whatever he tells you to do, be faithful to do it. And if you find that something in you won't let you do it, figure out why. You can't let it rest at that. Anyway, enjoy your day. Give it some thought. I welcome your comments in the section below. I'd like to see what you have to say as well. And as always, if you're enjoying this walk together, push that like button, share, subscribe, do what you got to do. Shalom.
We'd love to hear from you. Please write to us at disciplesofcana@gmail.com.